Summer movie season 2024 edition looks to be the deepest and widest slate of summer movie releases we've had, maybe ever. In fact, today's guest has already called the summer of 2024 the Summer of Directors. Will this summer's box office be ruled by writer-director Auteurs? We'll find out coming up. My name is Brian, I am Dragon Movie Guy, and this is the Dragon Movie Guy podcast. Hey everybody, Dragon Movie Guy here. Welcome to another episode of the Dragon Movie Guy podcast. This is the exhilarating, exulting, hopefully exciting Summer Movie Season Preview 2024 edition, where we're looking at all of the movies released in the summer of 2024. Hopefully some of them are good, some of them might be stinkers, you never know. That's why I'm here to let you know which movies I am excited for the most in the summer of 2024. With me today is a first-time guest to the Dragon Movie Guy podcast. He has already declared summer 2024 as the summer of the writer-director tour at the box office. His YouTube channel features his signature 8 questions with actors, directors, and even fellow YouTubers series, as well as his Blu-ray and DVD hunting series. His name is Patrick. His cat's name is Paladin. Together they are Have Cheetah Will View. Please welcome to the channel, Patrick.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be fun. And this summer is gonna be really interesting because I think we're gonna be looking at these movies with more of questions like how are these movies gonna do? A lot of people are going to be looking at the directors of some of these movies, not so much the movie itself, but the performers and the directors, I think. It's going to be an interesting summer.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment you sent to me where, yeah, I think this might be a summer of directors more than just big blockbusters. Unlike a lot of the summers we've had in recent years. Basically how this works is you're the guest, so I'm going to go based off of your list. We're going to count down from number 11 down to number 1, which is number 1 will be our most anticipated movie. Where my list converges with your list, we'll talk about both at the same time. So my list is going to be kind of jumbled up and out of order, but we're keying off of your list as the guest. So
Whoa. Pegging isn't new for me, friendo, but it is for Disney. I am Marvel Jesus.
Your number 11 pick is, I think on a lot of people's lists, it is the only MCU movie coming out in the entire year of 2024. So tell me about Deadpool and Wolverine.
I'm so curious to see how they're going to be able to get Deadpool into the MCU because the Deadpool movies did so much damage to the character by making so much fun of the MCU. You know, like it's a movie setting. They just ripped it. They're relentless in it. It basically is just staring and telling the audience, yeah, this is all fake. They made so much fun of the movie itself. Deadpool's now going to walk into the MCU, and I think they did too much damage. I don't think bringing Deadpool in the MCU is a smart move. Unfortunately, Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, he had a lot of pull in that. I think he shot himself in both feet. I don't think no one's going to take his character seriously at all on any level. When you're watching a MCU movie, as soon as we see the heroes, it's like hell yeah, like when Captain America, picked up the hammer, right? Everybody had that emotional outburst. We're not going to get that with Deadpool on any level. The only thing we're going to get from him is every time he comes on the screen, we're going to be laughing. It's Ryan Reynolds. What madcap thing is he going to do now? And that's just not the setting. That's not the setting you want for a movie like this.
So did you like the first 2 Deadpool movies?
No, I didn't like I didn't like the direction they did it in. I thought it really just it just took down the whole thing about what Marvel was about. Marvel was working really hard. Comic book movies had such a hard time getting made in the first place, and to go ahead and take a character like that and just make him into a caricature, to make him into a clown. I mean, not even the Joker was that bad in the Batman movies. I mean, he still felt like you're watching a superhero movie, and with Deadpool, you just felt like you were just watching comedy.
So are you a Ryan Reynolds fan in general, or is it just that you like Deadpool but you don't like his interpretation of Deadpool?
I like Ryan Reynolds, but I've always said this about him. he's only as good as his director. If he has a strong director like Martin Campbell, everybody knows that he has made fun of Green Lantern. He's ripped that movie. You go back and watch Green Lantern and watch Ryan Reynolds' performance. It's damn good. It's really good. And that's because he had Martin Campbell on him, and he wasn't going to let him do his improvise. Like, look, I'm going to go and improvise every single thing I'm going to do. That's the problem with Ryan Reynolds, is that everything he does is all the same. He comes across as the same in just about every movie. His Deadpool is Hannibal King in Blade Trinity. There's no difference. Brian, when he has a good director, Ryan Reynolds can be a fine actor. Yeah.
So wait, did you like the Green Lantern movie?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. I thought they were a little bit ambitious, though, for an origin movie. I thought they were a little ambitious trying to bring parallax into it, but all the way up to it, the origin and the powers and the suit, and I thought they did a good job for an origin movie. And yeah, I liked Green Lantern. I
Fascinating.
thought they did. Yeah.
I love Martin Campbell. He's to me, he's the best Bond director of the last 20 years. He rebooted it twice.
Yeah.
Rebooted Bond twice, both with GoldenEye and with Casino Royale. And that was actually one of the few Martin Campbell movies I did not like. Green Lantern. Fascinating. If you're not a fan of Ryan Reynolds' take on Deadpool, why did you include it on your top 11 list?
Because I am curious to see how they're gonna. I just want to see it. It's like a NASCAR race for me. It's like, okay, it's gonna crash in the corner, but I still got to see it. I still want to see it. I think adding Hugh Jackman in there does give it a fighting chance. I don't think it will work, but at least it gives it a fighting chance. I mean, they're gonna have to do a multiverse story. They're gonna have to do that. We're gonna find out that he's not part of this planet. He's not in his whole universe is a different one. And that's probably the only way they're going to be able to do this. Like, he's going to have to come over here, and they're going to bring him into our world, and he's going to have to realize that in his world, what was a joke is the real deal in this one. Everything he thought was funny is not, because it's really here. And so he's gonna have to like learn that. And that's the only thing I can see how they're going to do that. But again, it's going to take a really strong director to make sure that Ryan Reynolds, like, once he realizes that, okay, so I'm not in my planet anymore. I'm in a different universe, and this is no longer just fun and games. He's going to need a strong director to get that out of Ryan Reynolds and take it seriously.
Were you a big fan of the Fox X-Men movies as a whole?
I liked X-Men 2. I like Kelsey Grammer and X3. And I loved I love Magneto's backstory in the first X-Men. I didn't see that coming. In fact, I'll tell you, when I first saw that first scene with him in the beginning, man, I got tears in my eyes, because I never knew his origin as that, and it was a powerful scene. Maybe the best opening scene of any of the Marvel movies on either Sony or Disney.
Or Fox.
But they still dropped the ball. They still dropped the ball on it. The dialogue was really clunky. They didn't let Taylor Maine, his saber tooth was just like, what the hell? Yeah, it was just.
There's been a lot of good and a lot of bad in the Fox X-Men series.
Yeah.
So,
Michael Fassbender as young Magneto, perfect.
Deadpool and Wolverine, though, Deadpool 3 is number 2 on my list this summer. And it probably would have been higher if the trailers would have been better. I'm a huge fan of both Ryan Reynolds and his take on Deadpool. I love especially the first Deadpool movie, but also the second one, because the second one, I think, it's not as good filmmaking-wise, but it has a lot of heart to it, and there's more to love there the more times that I rewatch it. And even the PG-13 version that they released with Fred Savage from The Wonder Years, I liked. So the fact that we're finally getting a rated R MCU Disney-owned Marvel movie, I love. I don't love, though, that it's the only film that's coming out this year. And that's not Deadpool's fault. It's just sort of the bad timing of it all. It's all of the, well-worn, well-covered MCU kind of falling apart at a certain point in Phase 4 and Phase 5. And now that we have Deadpool coming in, hopefully Deadpool and his rated R and can save the day. But I gotta admit, watching the trailers, it's still Deadpool. I think he's been Disneyfied a little bit. I don't know if I love using the TVA to bring him in, because I did love the Loki show. I loved Loki season 1. I thought Loki season 2 was okay. I didn't like it as much as season 1, but the fact that we're using the TVA to bring Deadpool into the MCU, I don't know how that's going to play. I do love that we're going to get Hugh Jackman coming in as Wolverine, but when he had the best exit to a character that you can have in Wolverine, I mean, arguably the exit for Wolverine was almost as good as the one for Tony Stark, and now he's back. I guess I'm not opposed to bringing him back, because anytime there's money made, you can always bring a guy back. But I love the idea of those two on screen together. I love the idea of having them in an actual Deadpool film, not X-Men Origins Wolverine, because that was not a good film. So I'm really looking forward to it. I really love the yellow Wolverine costume, the comics accurate one, or at least sort of comics.
I heard that people are more excited about that than they are, seeing Deadpool. They're more excited to see the Wolverine outfit. That's what I've been hearing. They're going like, oh my God, they're actually going to finally give him the damn uniform.
Yeah, and it is fascinating how 20th Century Fox did a lot of things right, but I think they also did a lot of things wrong. And Bryan Singer, great director, horrible human being. I think we're pretty safe in saying that. But I think it's good to get a fresh start. And Hugh Jackman keeps himself in amazing shape, so I'm glad that we don't have to just bring in another actor, because Hugh Jackman's almost aged out of the role. But I love the idea of these two coming together in this film. I wish we had more MCU movies this year to kind of bounce back and forth on with them. But I guess this is the one that we're getting. This is the only one we're getting, so I'm gonna hopefully be happy with it. And I wish it was higher on my list, but
I just hope the fans, especially the casual fans, the fans that are that aren't vested in the comic books or what have you, I really hope they come out and do enjoy the film. In that respect, it seems like now, like the fandom they're all in a hurry to bury the movies when they come out, and it's like, wow, I don't get that at all myself, and I don't get it at all unless it's so obvious that the film being made is hot garbage. And then I understand the heat. I understand the heat. Like, I couldn't understand the heat for the Marvels. That looked absolutely amazing. The scenes that I saw for the Marvels, I was like, this is so cool. This is fun. But I'm thinking about like Madam Web. I mean, I can understand people going like, yeah, it's not very accurate, and I get that, but they were burying that movie before they wrapped it, and people were burying that movie beforehand without even looking at it, and they did it because I really wanted Morbius to make it, because that was one of my
movie, though. That
yeah,
was like every trope and every stereotype of everything to not do in a film.
I just felt bad though, because it's for superhero movies. The origin story is always the hardest. Oh, it's like it's always the hardest, because because you're introducing the character, not the comic book fans. You're introducing them to the public, to everybody else who's not a comic book fan, and you got to get them over that way. The comic book fans, you just have to rely on that they already know who he is and what he's about, and comic book fans need to just not be quite so like for Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm not going to be totally comic book. It's not going to be a comic book accurate, but you know what? If they can somehow, some way get it over and make it work, that's really all it really matters, right? It's just to make it work somehow.
Well, look, any kind of art form, and movies are art. They're business, but they're also art. Any art form is different in different mediums. Television is different than streaming, which is different than movies, which is different than comics, which is different than graphic novels. They all have their different strengths and weaknesses. And I do find that a little bit funny when the hardcore comics fans, and gotta love them. I love that they're huge fans, but when they compare films and television to the comics, well, it's not like it was in the comics. Well, it can't be, because each medium has different strengths and weaknesses. You have to tell a bigger story on film. You have to tell longer stories for television. You can't have as much inner monologue as you do with a comic. So they are different kinds of mediums, and to hold one standard to a different medium, I think, is where it gets a little bit unfair from a lot of the comics fans. In the same way that you hear, well, the book was better, with a lot of book adaptations in movies. Teach their own, but I love that comic fans are there and that they have a huge passion for characters, but I think that gets missed a lot along the way there, too, when you talk about comic book movies, or superheroes, I should say, rather than comic. That's my number 2.
I'm just a stunt guy, trying to look cool in front of the director of this movie.
We need to keep it super professional.
Do you want to make out?
Nope. What are you into?
Talking.
Yeah.
Came close to getting on my list. It didn't quite, though, and I don't know what it is that I was missing, but tell me about The Fall Guy.
I'm a kid of the 80s, so I got to watch the TV show. It ran for 5 years on ABC, and one of the best entries on television ever is Heather Thomas walking through the swinging doors in a blue bikini. It's like every guy was there for that particular moment. Lee Majors was a very popular TV star. Very popular. He got a start in movies, and then he did a show called The Big Valley that he co-starred with Barbara Stanwyck, and he became a TV star. And of course, after that, he did The $6 Million Man, and became more famous than ever with Colonel Steve Austin. A lot of these stars back then, it's like as soon as they were done with a series, 5 years, 6 years, they will wait maybe a year and then come back because people really liked the actor. Maybe the show might have got tired or whatnot, but the actor was very popular. So he went ahead and did The Fall Guy, and that was coming off Smokey and the Bandit, and also another Burt Reynolds movie called Hooper. That was a story about a stuntman, him and Jan Michael Vincent, and that was a very popular movie as well. So they went ahead and created a stuntman. Glenn Larson did. Glenn Larson was the creator of a lot of Buck Rogers in the 25th century. He did a lot of TV back then. So I'm interested in seeing how it goes. Ryan Gosling on board and Elizabeth Blunt, good cast. They just have to write a story that's not TV heavy. And for the love of God, and I'm praying that they don't do this, please don't bring back anybody from the TV show. Everybody does it. It never works. It's stupid. Stop it.
Was Emily Blunt's character in the TV show?
Her first name is Jodie, which was Heather Thomas's first name. But Heather Thomas's was Jodie Banks. And Emily Blunt's character is going to be Jodie Moreno. So I don't know if Emily Blunt is going to be working for Colt Seavers in the movie. It sounds like they're going to meet during an adventure, and and maybe she might work for him at the end of the movie, but probably for this movie here, they'll probably end up meeting cute or like damsel in distress, and that's how they'll probably connect.
So was Heather Thomas's character a movie director?
She was a stunt girl. She did stunts with yeah. Her and Douglas Barr, that they were both working with Colt. They're both stunts, and they're also bounty hunters.
I love the premise of this, and it made it into my honorable mentions, but I didn't. There's just something kind of missing that I didn't quite get in the trailer. I don't know quite what it is. Maybe it's just because I haven't seen a movie in theaters since The Creator in October, so I'm a little bit out of practice. So that might be one of the things that I think I might be missing. But I love both actors here. I love Emily Blunt. I like Ryan Gosling. I loved him in Lars and the Real Girl. I think he has a lot more range than generally see in most of his roles. But yeah, this looks like it's going to be a lot of fun regardless. So
It's definitely going to be a popcorn movie. I
yeah.
don't. I see this movie's going to be a big hit. I think it's going to be a big hit, and between Ryan Gosling coming off, coming off of Barbie, Emily Blunt, really well, very popular as well. This is going to be a big hit. I would be disappointed to see if it doesn't do well, but I suspect it'll do very well. It's going to be I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Why is this film not higher on your list?
Well, to me, there's just better films. I mean, they're, of higher quality. Like I said, this is just popcorn. I mean, I go in there, I check in my brain in at the concession stand, buy a bag of popcorn, and I'll probably come back out and if you ask me within, 2 days what was the movie about, I probably have a hard time telling you, you know. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's a perfect summer movie.
I have a feeling that this is going to be the type that if you go see it in theaters, you're going to have a good time. But
Mhm.
then when it comes out on streaming in like 2 or 3 months, in August or September, you're going to be like, did I see that film? I have a feeling that's going to be a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I know that I saw it, but what happened?
Uh, it's
I
gonna
think.
probably skew toward an older audience too, since a lot of the young people probably don't really know who Fall Guy really is unless they watched it on TV, unless they like they watch it on some of the channels that do old TV series.
Yeah.
But this show is it did come out in the mid '80s, so we'll be able to connect with the young generation. I mean, they got a nice cast. I mean, Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling definitely are two of the biggest stars today. Um, but will that be enough to get young people out to the theater to watch it? So I
And
think it will. I think the action's there, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's family oriented. I think it's PG-13 or 13 PG-13, so you can take the family to see it.
and anyone who wants to see Heather Thomas, it is on the opening credits for the Fall Guy TV series, and it is as advertised. It is
Yeah,
Heather Thomas in a
smoke.
bikini, and it is, the movie might be PG-13, but she's
That
definitely not
poster
PG-13.
no,
Even though it was network
that
TV.
poster was on a lot of that poster was in a lot of guys, a lot of college
Yeah,
dormitories.
it inspired a lot of men.
MaXXXine, adult film and entertainment, is that correct?
I always wanted to be famous.
Maxine.
MaXXXine. This is the third film in Ty West's horror film series. The first one was X. The second one I did not see that came out last year. That was sort of a prequel to X. This is a film still surrounding Mia Goth's character. Now she is in the 1980s. She's an adult film star trying to go do mainstream films. And of course, the murders and everything starts to follow. I really loved X when that came out because there was something, I don't know, fresh about it. Like, I'm not generally a huge horror movie fan, but there was a little bit of an edge. There was a little bit of a fun factor in X that is definitely not there in most horror films, in my opinion, that drew me in. I can't quite put my finger on it exactly what it is that I loved about that film, but it was a little bit different, it was a little bit weird, and it was a lot of fun. And if MaXXXine is anywhere close to what X was, because they planned and shot these films all in basically one fell swoop. So MaXXXine and X and the other one were all kind of shot at roughly the same time. So this is the third and final of that series. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it with Mia Goth coming back for the final time as MaXXXine. In the poster here, we have pop star Halsey is also in the film, and then also, it's fascinating looking at the cast with this film. I think most horror films, generally speaking, get younger cast members as a good way to keep money low, keep budgets low. So we don't have big name actors, generally speaking, in horror films. But the fact we're getting Bobby Cannavale, we're getting Lily Collins, we're getting Halsey, we're getting Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad himself, and Michelle Monaghan. I'm just really looking forward to MaXXXine. Comes out July 5th.
I watched X. I did not watch Pearl yet. And then
Pearl
I did
also.
see the trailer. I did see the trailer for MaXXXine. I have a lot of faith in Ty West. I think there's going to be a big twist to this movie. I have my idea what I think is going to happen, and I'm going to wait to see if it does. It's interesting how he mixed, because Tarantino did this too with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And Ty West is also mixing in a real life event with his story as well, and that is Richard Mears, the Night Stalker, who was a real serial killer, and he is, he plays a prominent role in this movie. It's going to be interesting.
You're a bigger horror fan than I am. In general, did you like X and what Ty West has done with it?
X didn't reinvent the wheel. I mean, I couldn't understand why people were fawning all over it. It was all right. The pacing had a lot to be desired. The pacing of the movie really blew. For an hour and a half movie, the first 45 minutes was nothing happened. Nothing. The one thing I will say about it, it was a revelation, though. It was watching Kid Cudi. He played the young actor, and Brittany Snow. Brittany Snow played way against type.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. That was, everybody was talking about Jenna Ortega, and it's like, how come everybody's sleeping on a Brittany Snow's performance? Because every time you go back and watch Brittany Snow's in her career, she's always been the princess, the Cinderella, the Snow White, and she's none of that in this movie.
Well, I think part of that too is I think with Brittany Snow, she looks the part of the Disney princess, so that's what she gets cast as. But I think if you really look at stuff like John Tucker Must Die, and even her character in Pitch Perfect, a little bit edgier, I think,
than
really most people give her credit for.
She was really good in Hangman too. It was a underrated film with Carl Urban and Al Pacino, and she was really good in that as well.
Nice.
But
I
she
haven't
always
seen it.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one to get. I thought her performance in X was it was just like, wow, I didn't expect that at all. But that was it. That was only it. The story itself, it didn't grab me at all. The pacing wasn't there. It was just, everybody was fawning all over it like it was the next thing since sliced bread, and it's like, I've seen a lot better. I mean, are you serious? I mean, I think a lot of people were slobbering all over it. Not that I would mention it. Not that I would say that the Cinema Squad was doing something like that. But I think they were tied to the A24. Like, oh, A24 put it out. Oh, we're supposed to love it. It's like, no, not really. It's a good movie, but it's not reinventing anything. It's not. Now, MaXXXine was going to surprise. I think it might surprise us. I do. I think there is going to be some twisting and turning in MaXXXine. I think it's going to be a surprise.
Did you see it though?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But I do own the movie.
I have that challenge too of owning films that I haven't seen yet and having not watched. So MaXXXine was my number 11. Your number 9, I kind of had to read up on a little bit, and even then, I'm still kind of a little bit behind. In the Summers. This has got Sasha Calle. She was Supergirl in the Flash movie. I gotta admit, though, I haven't seen or heard of anyone else in this film. So tell me about In the Summers.
In the Summers is really, really that's what I hooked me for. Was Sasha Calle, because I am really a fan of hers. She easily is the best thing about the Flash. And yes, I know that includes Michael Keaton being in there, but she was definitely the best thing about the Flash. And super disappointed that James Gunn did not take her Supergirl with him into his reign there. I think she has a very bright future, and I want to see this movie because I want to see her in front on a big screen again. I think she's definitely someone to keep an eye out. I don't know too much about this movie. I'm surprised that this movie is sort of screams out art house, It doesn't really scream out major studio or 3,000 screen opening. So I suspect it'll be a more art house type movie. But I really, really am excited to see Sasha Calle in a different role. I think she's going to be a big star. She's only 20. I think she's only 24 or 25. So she's just really basically just getting going. So I'm excited to see it.
Well, and it's
I'm-
pretty interesting premise too of siblings who grow up in a divorced home, so they spend their summers with their dad. Hence, in the summers, from writer-director Alexandra Samudio. So I've not heard of Alexandra Samudio before. So I love new films and I love new filmmakers. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any kind of critical reception to this film. Right now, it doesn't have a release date that I can tell. I Googled it, and it said it came out in I think January or February for the film festival circuit. But as far as having a wide release or an art house release, so when it comes out, if it does come out this summer, look for Summers. My number 10 it's a little bit of an odd one. It is A Quiet Place Day One, which is the third Quiet Place movie. And considering that A Quiet Place was just John Krasinski and Emily Blunt looking to do a movie together, and just done as a little indie film, no budget, just great storytelling, then it's a huge hit. Then Quiet Place 2 comes out. It's also good, not quite as good, but also makes a ton of money. So this is the prequel, Day One, of those aliens invading Earth. It's the aliens from outer space, and we get the big budget Hollywood treatment on the indie film Darling from a couple of years ago. No John Krasinski directing this film, but we do have a great cast. We've got Jaimin Hansu, we've got Lupita Nyong'o, and, I'm not a huge CGI fan, but I like the CGI effects on the trailer of this film. I love the world that's been built up in this film, and even the cast that they got to be in it. Alex Wolff has done so much great work on the young adult circuit over the last 10 years or so. I mean, he hasn't done as much the last couple of years in terms of big name stuff, but I am really excited to see a big blockbuster treatment to this former indie darling of a franchise. Jaimin Hansu and Lupita Nyong'o, Oscar-nominated actors across the board. See, this is what I'm talking about. I've been off YouTube for 6 months, so now I'm getting into the stumbling portion of the live stream. I am eager to see A Quiet Place Day One. my number 10 film.
Yeah, definitely looks. The cast is definitely attractive. I mean, some good names there. I didn't see the second one. I saw the first one. Oh my God, that first movie. I mean, everybody. I don't know. I think it had heart, but
You think it was a little overblown?
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. They made so many mistakes. I said, you're coming out of the theater and you're shaking your head and you're going like, it may sound sort of cruel, but it really isn't. But they were the dumbest family ever. I mean, they were the dumbest. I mean, it's like everything that happened to them was all their fault. Putting their little kid on the end, making him walk on the end. He's like a little kid, and he's like, he had him at the end of the family trail. It had been 3 years since the invasion had hit. 3 years. She's pregnant. So in a world where no noise can be heard, you're going to go ahead and allow yourself to get pregnant. How the hell are you going to keep not only yourself, but how are you going to keep your baby quiet? Who thought about that? I mean, if anybody's going to do birth control, that would be the time to do it during the invasion. And it's just like you're just sitting there going, like, who would do that? Who would get pregnant during this time?
Well, the human race does have to go on at some point.
Yeah, but that's when you sit there and let somebody else do it. While you're buying time, you let somebody else do it. while you're buying time, so to kick him off the planet. But I mean, then they give birth to the baby, and you're sitting there and like, oh, that how are you going to keep quiet for that, and then she stepped on the nail, and it was just like, I mean, whatever they could create noise off of, they did. They put poor Emily Blunt into that, and yeah, I just had I had a hard time with that movie. The dad, he gave himself up way too soon. Like, wow, like you couldn't think yourself out of this. I like how they defeated the aliens, and it would have been more to me. It would have been more interesting to see them going forward. I don't know how the second movie did. And day one, I mean, all we're doing is we're seeing what's happening to get us to the first movie. This is what we're doing to get you up to speed. I don't know. Are you a big prequel fan? I mean, and let me ask
Um,
that in the chat as well. Are you guys prequel fans as well?
I think I like the idea of prequels more than the execution of prequels. I'm trying to think off the top of my head of prequels that I love, and X-Men First Class would be one, but like struggling to come up with other prequels that are like excellent.
Yeah.
But there's not a huge time jump here. I mean, it's a couple years. It's not 20 years. It's not 30 years.
Right.
It is just
And
day one versus day 400 and whatever.
that's a good point. That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I mean,
You're right.
I think I loved A Quiet Place in the first film. I will say though, I do think that there was a certain amount of Mars attacks in there. Kind of towards the end, in terms of the ending of the film. To me, it tied a little bit too closely to Mars Attack, but then again, that's it's a 30-year-old movie, completely different genre. So
Right.
that nitpick aside, I really did like the first film, and I'm looking forward to this. It's not higher on my list though because I guess it's maybe slightly a cynical thing, but
It's a good cast though.
the
It's a
cash
good
grab
cast.
portion of it,
Yeah.
and look, I love big blockbusters. But, to me, it's a little bit wait and see in terms of the big budget treatment to the indie film darling. So that is my number 10 film.
What a cool little town.
I actually like this so much better than a hotel.
Lock the front door!
Your number 8 film is The Strangers Chapter 1. I know there was a Strangers movie that came out in 2008. I don't think this is related to that. Or if it is, it's before that. It's a prequel, I think. Saw the trailer, still don't quite know what's going on here. It is Madeline Pesh, if that's the right way to pronounce her name. And then there's Gabriel Grasso as the two main lead characters, as the couple that goes to the small town. Tell me about Strangers Chapter 1.
What I'm really curious, what really attracted me to this movie, it isn't necessarily the story or the cast. I'm hoping the story does well. I'm hoping the movie does well, but it's the director. Rennie Harlan is directing this movie, and he directed
Die Hard 2.
Die Hard 2, and he directed Cutthroat Island. I'm just waiting for someone to laugh at that so we can unleash the cheetah. I love that movie. Cutthroat Island is one of my guilty pleasures. Love that movie.
To this day, I've never seen it. To me, it's more of a punchline than it is.
No, it's so good. It's so good. It really is.
Is it so bad that it's good, or is it actually good?
No, it's really good. It's exciting. Honest to God, I would match up that movie with Pirates of the Caribbean. I really would. Oh yeah, That movie is so much fun, and the pacing's a lot quicker too. It's not bloated, and it doesn't like the Pirates was at the end of it. But it's a good movie. It's fun. It's very fun. And Rennie Harlan did a great job there because he's done a lot of movies underneath the radar too. He did one with Samuel Jackson and Edward Harris called The Cleaner, which is vastly underrated. No one's ever seen that movie. That movie is really strong. I'm curious to see how he does it. I think he's going to do part 1, part 2, part 3. I think he's going to do it as prequel, modern day, future. That's how I see it. And I think it's going to be very entertaining. And they're already all filmed. I'm excited for it. I like slashers, but I mean, it's not my cup of, it's not my favorite one. But I am very interested in seeing what Rennie Harlan does with this. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people.
the fact that they shot multiple films at the same time, it's not as unusual as it used to be, but it is still an unusual thing for a studio to fork out enough money for 3 feature films that they're going to shoot all at once. So that did kind of grab my attention a little bit too. And as far as the premise, it's a couple that goes to a small town. They get stuck there, and then the people with the masks start coming for them. Seems like a pretty tried and true horror premise that we've seen a million times before. Is there anything that stands out about this premise?
If you think about it, it does sort of have a sort of like a Children of the Corn vibe too. Like that's what happened to the couple came into the town, and next thing you know, all the kids are controlling it or what have you. I mean, if it comes out where there are a lot of people doing the same thing, I think that's a mistake. I think if it's just those 2 versus the original 3, like this is how the first 3 got to get going, I think it'll be a much more interesting movie. If they make the whole town like it, then I think you risk losing the audience. 2 against many that's the thing. You got to put them on the defensive, and you got to have them run for their lives. You can't have them killing the whole town and escaping the last 3.
Now,
Have them chase you to the next movie. You can't do that. I think if you do that, you'll lose the audience. I am a little concerned for the cast. The only person I think has any sort of recognizable name here is Madeline Push, and from Riverdale. I think that's the only one that people will know. Horror fans themselves might remember Richard Brake. He's worked with Rob Zombie before, but other than that, I think the rest of the cast is a virtual all no names, are all young people, and I think that's just kept the budget down. But I'm concerned by that because there's nobody that we could grab onto other than Richard Brake. And even then, like I said, the public's not going to really know who he is. Will that be enough for you to be invested in these people? Are they going to survive this movie? That's the other thing too. Is like, is Rennie Harlan going to let them survive to keep going forward with the killers, or is he just going to have them die at the end and then take his 3 killers and move them on to the next story?
It'll be interesting to see how he ties, if there is a grand story that he's tying it all together with. Because I do like Rennie Harlan too, so it'll be interesting to see what he does with this franchise as a whole.
Dan from the Cinema Squad mentions I think the strangers themselves are the bigger pull. Yeah, it just would have been nice to, this is I'm not saying it's a lot, but it's what people recognize. I do too. I definitely think so too, and I think it'll probably be the same dynamic. 2 girls and a guy. I just wish that there would actually been someone who we could see their faces with, so we could recognize them a little bit. I think it just helps with the pull a little bit. And the first one, you had Scott Speedman and you had Liv Tyler, both very recognizable, both big stars, and that was the big pull. It's like, wow, okay, and that's what made the movie more effective, was because you didn't expect them to die. You expected them to somehow get out of it, Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler, but then you find out that no, not necessarily.
Our little girl's growing up so fast. I'm anxiety. I'm envy. Welcome to headquarters, embarrassment. That's not going to haunt us for the rest of our lives at all.
My number 9 film is Inside Out 2. It's one of the few family films on my list for summer. I loved the first Inside Out. Basically, it's the story of all the different emotions that that are trying to control a person. And in this case, it's a little girl named Riley as she's a baby, and the different emotions take over as she starts growing up. Inside Out 2 takes place when Riley becomes a teenager, goes through puberty, and starts having more emotions than she knows what to do with, and hence new emotions start coming in and all of the emotions inside of her brain. I love that we're bringing back most of the same cast. We have Phyllis from The Office, was Sadness in the first film, Amy Poehler as Joy, Lewis Black as Anger, probably the best casting for that part that you could ever do. Some of the new people, though. We also have Maya Hawke as Anxiety, pretty funny. Liza Lepara, she's been in a bunch of different stuff. She was also in the Equalizer TV show. Very good actress. I'm looking forward to seeing what she's doing this. forward with
She
this.
did a great. She did a great arc on NCIS too. Really,
Oh,
that put
nice.
on. Yeah, really good actress.
And so great cast, great voice cast, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing what Kelsey Mann and everyone else over there at Disney and Pixar can do with Inside Out too. So that's my number 9 film.
I have the first movie.
Haven't watched it yet though.
Yeah, that's my middle name. My middle name, right? I've always said that everybody in our community here should get a T-shirt that says, "I have the movie, just haven't seen it yet."
God, yeah, we need to have that as like a T-shirt for sale on Teespring
Yeah,
or yeah.
that would be the perfect merch.
Mental note. I have it on Blu-ray. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. Comes out June 14th.
5 women got lost out there. Only 4 came back.
Out there, nature holds us all to account.
Your number 7 film, and this is one that I'd never heard of before, but this is Force of Nature, The Dry 2. Never heard of The Dry in the first place. I guess it's an Australian film. It's got Eric Bana. It's got Anna Torv, both Australian actors. Anna Torv, of course, we know from Fringe. Eric Bana was the Hulk, not the Incredible Hulk, but the Hulk. Tell me about Force of Nature.
So, Force of Nature is a sequel to The Dry. The Dry is based on a series of mystery books written by an author in Australia. Eric Bana plays an investigator. In the first movie, he investigates a strange killing, and he has to go inside of a town that's full of secrets. It did very, very well. It came out here on the States. It came out here on IFC, and they commissioned a second film. And so they brought back Eric Bana's character. I'm not sure which book this is going to be based off of, but they're bringing back the character and putting them in a new mystery. What's really cool about this too is not only bringing back Eric Bana and Anna Torv, who did many people might remember Anna Torv from the series Fringe that ran for 5 years on Fox. But Deborah Furness is coming back too and playing a role, and she is going to be the soon ex-wife of Hugh Jackman, who unfortunately those two had divorced. So I think this is going to be like her first time being on the screen in years. I mean, without Hugh Jackman, I think in years it's going to be the first time she's done a role. So I'm very curious to see how it works out. Plus it's an IFC film. And any chance I can get an ISC film, I'm all over it. If I can get it. So I'm pretty excited for it. And Eric Bana he's such a good actor. He has a lot of soul in his acting, and I really appreciate it.
I watched the trailer for this. It's a pretty interesting premise in terms of him being an investigator trying to find a missing woman who went hiking with a bunch of her friends, and the friends aren't exactly forthcoming with the truth regarding her disappearance. So, yeah, that's sort of the mystery aspect was sort of interesting to me. It is interesting too that you point out about IFC films, the fact that IFC may buy films that are already existing. So not so much them producing films as an independent studio, but finding independent films that are already made and using them as a platform to bring those films to a wider audience, as opposed to A24 producing more original content. That is sort of an interesting thing of, well, if they're spending that kind of money to acquire this film that was filmed in Australia, then it's probably a good sign, I think. Hard to tell. But it comes out May 10th, so we don't have to wait very long to find out one way or the other. And I'm, like you said, I'm a huge IFC fan, so they generally have a pretty good taste in films. So,
you have a favorite IFC film in your collection?
Not off the top of my head, no. It's kind of more of the brand that I like than any particular thing. I think A24 is sort of the easier to say everything everywhere all at once, and a lot of other films of that ilk. IFC, I think, is more quantity over. I don't want to say quantity over quality, but because they do have good films, but it's not the ones that stick with you long term. I don't think.
IFC films?
Yeah, to me, they're not the ones that I don't really think of like films that I watched 10 years ago that were IFC films and go, you know what? I love that film, and it still sticks to me to this day. It's to
No.
me, IFC is more like good stories from younger filmmakers, or stories that could never succeed in a studio system. So it's having that ability to tell a story that you wouldn't otherwise be able to tell, and having IFC as the conduit through which to tell that story. What's your favorite IFC film?
I would flip that right around and go absolutely everything opposite. I
Really?
am not, I am not an A24 fan. Not of the new stuff. Some of the early stuff I'm a big fan of. Early A24, but not now. Everything they release now is like in is here out this year. Don't get me going on Hereditary. Um, uh, uh, But no, I'm with that with IFC. Every IFC movie I've watched, I can still talk about today.
Really?
Everyone. Oh, there's even the ones that didn't quite make it. You know, not every movie that comes out is a slam dunk. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you that. But for every one slam dunk, there's like 98 that are not. They're really strong, and they have a good pattern to it. You know, they make sure that the movies have good stars in it. A lot of their directors get plucked out and get handed bigger assignments. We saw that this year. We saw that this year with Keith Thomas. He directed a fantastic PG-13 thriller called The Vigil, and then he got picked to do the new Firestarter movie.
Oh,
That was the second.
nice.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes the directors of the ISC movies they get picked up to do bigger movies. So I know that Aslan Clark's got a new movie coming out. Hopefully, it's going to be on ISC. Last time I talked to her, negotiations were happening. I'm hoping it comes out on ISC midnight. I love them.
Yeah, and that's also one of the main things that I love about IFC and the whole independent movie scene is it helps find new filmmakers and gives more people a shot at being an artist and telling their stories, exploring their artistic vision. So I love supporting them regardless, and that's one of the major reasons why.
Yeah, you asked me earlier about my favorite guest. I would have to sit there. It's like I was telling you, how do I pick just one? Again, I got to interview Aslan Clark. She's definitely way up there as far as like like I couldn't believe I got to interview her. I was like shocked. I was like when she said yes, I'm like, holy okay. Maybe I am doing the right. Maybe there's something to this interview thing.
Well, if you're getting more filmmakers than I am right now, so you're doing something right.
Oh, we can work together on that. I can definitely give you some talent for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely want to start interviewing more filmmakers, people from the indie film community too. So
the more the merrier. We need more interviewers. Seriously, to me it's like this is our contribution to to movie reviews are one thing. You're offering your opinion on a movie, okay. But when you turn around and you talk to a filmmaker and you tell them, you see, it's like going behind the green door in the Wizard of Oz. Like how does that work? Let's go see the wizard. So we go behind the green door to see how it works. I'm all about that. I get excited when I get to talk to a filmmaker like that.
To get the filmmakers out there they're not the A-listers, they're not even the D-listers. They're the waiting to get on a lister. But people are very talented and passionate, and will hopefully one day be on this night show.
Wouldn't you rather be hanging out with your friends?
I don't have any friends.
But objectively, you do make bad decisions. Well, who knows? Well, you know.
Janet Planet, which is not the greatest name, but the trailer is truly moving. It is. It stars Julianne Nicholson as a woman, as a single mom in 1991, and she has her daughter, and it's a two-hander where the mother and the daughter have a very complicated relationship as men come in and out of their lives. This is a film that is coming out June 21st. Julianne Nicholson's done a lot of different stuff. I still think of her as being in the later seasons of Ally McBeal, like 20 years ago, which it's not the biggest compliment because those seasons of Ally McBeal were not great, but she was really good in them. She plays the titular Janet. Janet's Planet, not a great title for a film, but there's just something very emotional truth. There's an emotional truth to the trailer, and yeah, I get it. It's a 2-minute trailer versus an hour and a half movie, but you know when you can just sort of tell when they get the basics of the story right, they get the casting right, they get the little girl right, they get the mom right. I think this is one of those that can be a good story, where we see we get a complicated kid, we get a mess of a mom, and hopefully together they grow with mother and daughter. So that's what I'm hoping.
And
Janet
it has I see it has Will Patton in it, and that's an elevator right there. Will Patton's a powerhouse.
Yep.
Every time he comes on screen, it makes the movie all that much better.
I mean, it's such an indie film that Zoe Ziegler doesn't even have a profile pic on her IMDb page.
Right.
Playing the little girl. This is from a first-time director, writer-director, another indie filmmaker. And again, I don't like the name Janet Planet. Yeah, I get it that it rhymes, but when I think Janet, I think either Three's Company or I think Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like, damn it, Janet, I love you.
Right.
So when you're going with the name Janet, there's a certain comedic value to the first name. I just don't get why they named it Janet Planet, because it sounds more like a joke when the film looks like it's anything but. It looks like a really serious drama. So that name, the film name, I'm not a huge fan of. And you're right, Will Patton is a phenomenal actor. He brings a ton of gravitas to every role he does. So, did you see the trailer for this film?
No, not yet, but I'm definitely going to do that as soon as we're done.
First-time filmmaker. It's a writer, director, auteur kind of thing. Same thing, independent film. So, Janet Planet, number 8 on my list, coming out June 21st.
You enjoying your pie?
All pie is good pie. Am I the right guy to eliminate your problem?
Mm-hmm. This is good.
Your number 6 film, and this is one of the few that I've taken a behind-the-scenes photo as opposed to a screen capture. This is Glenn Powell. This is also one of my favorite directors,
Richard Linklater.
Richard Linklater, who's done stuff like Boyhood. He's done stuff like Dazed and Confused. All right. Richard Linklater, great director. Love his comedic sense. He did a sequel to Dazed and Confused a couple of years ago where they were playing baseball. Wasn't quite as good, but he just has that 70s and 80s aesthetic to him because it was when he was a kid growing up. So Hitman, yeah, it looks good to me. Tell me about Hitman. Sorry, I'm usurping your entry here. Tell me about Hitman.
I'm really excited for this movie too, but it's a little different because, like, for one thing, Glenn Powell's now. Glenn Powell's now a star. He's an A-lister, and
Adria Arjona is also in. She's the female.
I mean, he's a star. He had a great role in Top Gun Maverick. His comedy rom-com with Sydney Sweeney, Because of You, I think it was. Obviously, major hit. Anyone But You,
yeah,
major
hit.
It's great to see something like this. Something fun and frothy. What's really exciting for me, on the other hand, is that I got to interview one of the co-stars of this film, and I've known about this film for quite a while, and that was we're rooting to see our friend Mike Markoff. He has a feature role in Hitman, and I can't wait for it. I can't wait for the movie to come out, and hopefully people will notice him and he'll get his due. He's a very good actor and very charismatic, and he just needs a vehicle like this to be exposed. So I'm very excited for him, for the Hitman for him. I think it's going to do really well. It's not going to get a theatrical release. It looks like it's going to go straight to Netflix, but that's okay. That's okay, because everybody will be watching it. It'll do very well there. Hopefully, they'll get a physical release. That's the only thing I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for all these movies that we're talking about. I'm hoping that they get a physical release. But yeah, for the Hitman, I'm excited for Mike Markoff. Hoping that he gets discovered here.
So, what about this film's premise or the trailer grabs your attention?
It's the story is about hitmen and I think they're either on the run or it's like one of three hitmen movies, right? It's like the one that's going to retire and then they got to bring him back for one more job. It's one where he goes out for the one more job and then his boss tries to kill him. Or three, he sees his job, he falls in love with it, and then they get chased by everybody else. There's only a certain amount of finite stories you can tell about a hitman. So I mean, pick and choose from that one. I don't think that reinventing the wheel here. It's all about for movies like this. It's all about the chemistry between the cast. That's what makes these movies pop. It's not the story because the story's been sort of dinosaur dusted. But if he had good chemistry here, Glenn Powell and the young actress, he said her name,
Adria Arjona.
Adria Arjona. I mean, if they pop and they click and they're really cute together and people talk about that, then that's really what you're looking for. You're looking for the chemistry to make this movie move. It's just like it's like with Glenn and Sydney Sweeney. It's just like, okay, they're super cute together, super attractive together. People want to see it. People want to see that, so they'll go out there and they'll go over there. The story is almost second. It's almost like an afterthought.
I gotta be honest, when I watched the trailer for this, you said it better than I did. It kind of feels like we've seen this film before, because there are only and you're right. There are only so many different storylines you can tell with a hitman. I don't have a problem with that. I did have this on my honorable mentions list. I didn't quite make it into the top 11 for the summer, but I love the fact that we have a really good cast here. I think and anytime you have Richard Linklater involved in film, I think that there's a good shot that this is going to be a better than expected film.
That does help too.
Yeah, so I didn't quite make it on my list because of what you were saying, and yeah, it does feel like I've seen films like this before, but he usually does tend to have a pretty fresh take on things, even when doing stories that have been told before. So Hitman, and you're right, no theatrical release that we know of, but on Netflix on June 7th.
You use that much this year?
Haven't had much need of it yet.
Looks like we got ourselves a bad man right here.
My number 7 film. This is actually a little bit of a cheat. It's 2 films in one. We were talking earlier about films being shot at the same time and being released at a similar, closer time schedule, sooner than 3 or 4 years. This is actually 2 films being released 6 weeks apart, which is really unusual. This is Horizon and American Saga, Chapter 1, which is a lot. That does worry me a little bit. Anytime you have a film that has a lot of punctuation, with a lot of colons and semicolons and dashes in the title, that worries me a little bit. But it is starring and directed by Kevin Costner, Academy Award winning, yada yada yada. Every film from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Who doesn't love Kevin Costner? This is Kevin Costner doing another Western. He's done Westerns before, yes, but the cinematography in the trailers for this film looks amazing. Yes, the story looks a little bit, the perspective being told in the story feels like something from the 80s or 90s, and it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable because this is a film that's shot now. It's not a film that was shot 20 years ago. And I think, to a certain extent, society, or at least American culture, has kind of grown past the perspective that seems to be shown in this film. I'm trying to sublimate that opinion, though, because the cinematography looks really good, and anytime you can get Kevin Costner directing, writing, starring in a film with a great cast, following American westward expansion after the Civil War, we've got Sienna Miller, we've got Jenna Malone, we've got an all-star cast, and we also have Michael Rooker. And anytime you put Michael Rooker into pretty much any film, you can expect a Mary Poppins y'all type moment at some point in the film. So him as a side character to Western, I'm really looking forward to. No CGI, just great American, America, the West, landscape, beauty shots, people actually out filming something. The messaging looks a little bit old-fashioned in terms of 80s or 90s kind of points of view, but I'm willing to look past that because I'm hoping it's a really good film.
I will say one thing about this movie. I saw the previews for it. I will say one thing that this movie is not afraid to show that several westerns have, the last 20, 25 years that have lacked, and that is they actually show an actual conflict between the white man and Indian. You don't see that at all. You haven't seen that at all in westerns at all. It's always been, the fighting the evil sheriff or fighting the evil land baron in just about every western. It's never done with Indians. Like there's no, she wore a yellow ribbon. We haven't had those types of movies where they had cowboys and Indian fights. We haven't had those in American cinema, Western cinema, in forever. So
Well, for
going
good
back
reason.
to that,
I think there's a
um,
lot of good reasons for that because I think people's perspective has changed on a lot of the Western myths that we all grew up with.
it is history. It is historically accurate. We had a lot of conflict in moving out to the West, and it's all right to show that. There, you can show the brutality on both sides, and it's okay. But we have gotten away from that. Like we don't want to show. We want to show cowboys and Indians. We just want to show evil land barons. But I think in doing that, I think we do a disservice to the Native Americans by ignoring their story instead of bringing it to the forefront. Like Hostel. Hostel was really good. Hostels was really good. Christian Bale and Rosamund Pike. We saw the type, we saw history, and I think that's been sorely lacking in American westerns. And I think that Dances with Wolves, he didn't shy away from that. He brought that to the forefront. He showed Indians fighting Indians, and he showed Indians fighting the white man, and he wasn't afraid to do it. And because that's what happened. That's what happened back then and during those days. So I'm excited for this movie too for Kevin Costner. I just don't know if there's an audience for it. That people are going to be, if it's going to be fast enough for the audience, where they actually sit there for 3 hours watching this movie. Maybe the older audience might go out for this movie, but I mean, do you see a younger audience seeing it? I mean,
I honestly, I don't think so because I think the perspective that and we don't know until we actually see it, but the whole taming the whole American West kind of narrative that seems to be at play here in the trailers, I think anyone under 30 is probably not interested in seeing it. And then westerns in general, I think, is generally skew older. I think I'm kind of caught right in the middle of, like, I'm not really into westerns all that often because most westerns kind of came a little bit before my time. And then the westerns that came along in the 90s were not the same as the ones that came along in the 60s and 70s. So this will probably be a film that skews way older. And anytime you have a title that's like Horizon, an American Saga, to me that's one of the least inspirational movie titles I've ever seen. It sounds like a working title. It doesn't sound like a finished one that you would actually put on a poster. And the fact that we're getting two films for the price, not for the price of one, but two films being released 6 weeks apart, I'm not sure whether I'm inspired by that or afraid of that. Because they're not letting them breathe like you generally would. But then again, we're having films produced 2 and 3 at a time, like Strangers, and yeah, there's a little bit more of
well, I think the fact is that I think they're finding out that these movies, if the ones that get me are the ones that come back with a movie, after like 20 years. We're gonna I'm not sure if this made your list, but if you'll notice on my list, spoiler alert. One of the movies I did not put on my list because I have no desire. The trailer looked absolutely terrible, and that was Beetlejuice.
Oh, well, that was.
I don't think Beetlejuice is 30 something years way too late. It's like if you'd have, was it 31 years or 32 years since the first one?
Yeah,
and then you see Michael Keaton, and
87.
you see Michael Keaton in there, and he looks his age. No makeup can hide that. He looked old, and it's just like, the fact that you're going back to the well for these things, and you're bringing them back 30 years later. People just, that nostalgia thing is overrated. It really truly is. It's overrated.
Well,
a lot of the young people today, I mean, Beetlejuice is gonna be lucky in the fact that it's been playing nonstop ever since it came out of the theaters. but still, you should have still did that. You should have still did that, you know, 5 or 6 years afterwards. But people's now memories, their attention, you know, it's so short now. Their attention spans are much shorter.
Well, and for our purposes, I was trying to limit this video to summertime, and Beetlejuice comes out in September, early September. So
Is it okay?
so
I didn't know
it
if
wouldn't
still
technically
counted.
qualify as a summer movie in this case. So I think it was like September, like Labor Day time. So
The Labor Day.
it wouldn't be in the summer window. I am excited for Beetlejuice. I totally see what you're saying. And yeah, I agree with you in terms of, generally speaking, if you have to wait longer than 10 years for a sequel, it generally is not a good thing.
I think Costner. I think he said that. You know what? I'm going to, you know, because I don't want to wait a year between my movies. You know, I don't want people to forget because my time, like 6 weeks is 6 weeks is actually it's going to be interesting. And I can tell you right now, every studio is going to have their eyes blazed on that box office.
Yeah.
You know, he could be setting a new trend right here. If his two movies hit, if they come out and they both do really well and make money, I could see from in the future, I could see that happening more and more. Whereas you release part one and then 6 weeks part two, because the excitement from the both will be there, fresh and in the public's mind, and people will want to go see it.
Especially considering the second of the two is being released in the August window, which is, August is usually where summer movies go to die. Like, generally speaking, I think most summers, anything released after July 15th is not a huge blockbuster because everyone goes on vacation in the last part of July and early August. So, the fact that we're getting both coming out this summer in the summer window, but the second one's coming out August 13th, 14th, something like that. It does all kind of worry me a little bit, but it's still, you're right. It'll be really interesting to see. I think everyone will be watching to see how well these films do at the box office and how good the films are going to be as well. So, also probably why it's not higher on my list, but it is still number 7.
You look like you don't belong here.
Consider yourself lucky.
Your number 5 film is one that almost made it on my list, didn't quite make it there, but it does look really fascinating. Great title, too. Tell me about Cuckoo. Cuckoo. I keep thinking Sound of Music, but tell me about Cuckoo.
Every time I think of Cuckoo, I think of the House on Cuckoo Lane, which was an absolutely banger of a movie. That's a horror film you should check out. What's really cool about Cuckoo is the cast for me, because Dan Stevens is one of my favorite actors to watch. That guy is so interesting. Jessica Henwick is also on there from Iron Fist. She's on here as well. It looks to be very suspenseful.
Hunter Schafer from Euphoria, which has gotten a lot of critical praise. Zendaya show.
It's a mystery. It's always interesting to have the outsider come in, right? Like you have to take in a relative or a daughter or a son or whatever, and then they come into a house and there's always that weird dynamic, like who's going to be on your side, who's going to be, which person's going to show their colors first. Do they really care about you? Do they not care about you? I think Cuckoo is like here it sounds like she's going to be being gaslit, and I'm all for it. I'm already here to see it. I want to see how she gets out of it. The young actress who starred in it is a girl named Hunter Schafer, who I've never heard of before. But of course,
she's from the Max, HBO Max show Euphoria, which is from Zendaya from the Spider-Man movies. And Hunter Schafer is a trans actress, was born male, is transitioned to being a woman, and now she's venturing out in films. And she's actually on a couple of films being released this summer. So Hunter Schafer, good actress.
That may be maybe that'll play part of the story. Probably not, but I mean it could be, because that would be definitely different. Of course,
they have her as an outsider character, so I don't know if that's going to play, if her biology is going to play into the character of this film or not, but it definitely helps her with her authenticity, with the outsider perspective. Absolutely.
I noticed too, and not only in the cast, but it also has Martin Koskas in it. He's an excellent baddie. Oh my gosh, he plays a terrific bad guy. Of course, he was the bad guy in the first Equalizer, and he was one of the main bad guys into a very, very underrated and overlooked series called Into the Badlands. He was excellent in that as well. Wow,
Nice.
really.
And Dan
Uh,
Stevens, yeah, and Dan Stevens, great theater actor, great. I think he was Beast in Beauty and the Beast, the Emma Watson one. I think I could be wrong.
Actually, he did one movie which I actually thought would have already gotten a sequel out, and this is part of what the problem that we were talking about earlier, just a minute ago, about like taking too long, because the first movie that he did in this, he did a movie called The Visitor. That movie was bonkers, and he walked away. It was like, oh, okay, we could make a sequel out of this, but again, no one does it. And by the time someone realizes that, hey, let's do a sequel of this visit, it's already going to be 10 years down the road, and people have already forgotten about it.
Everyone and then the actors get aged out of the characters.
Right, right. I'm interested in Cuckoo. I think it's going to be very interesting.
This is it. The moment of truth. Isn't it wonderful?
My number 5 film is Kinds of Kindness. And if that sounds a little bit repetitive and a little odd, it's because it probably is. It's Emma Stone and Yorgos Lanthimos following up Poor Things with, we've only gotten a teaser trailer so far, and the teaser trailer is really bizarre looking. The screen capture that I have here it's Emma Stone doing I guess she's needs to run to the restroom, dance in the parking lot with a guy in a wheelchair being turned away from some sort of sports car. It looks bizarre. It's just sort of the sizzle reel of a teaser trailer that we got. Doesn't really tell you anything other than it's Yorgos Lanthimos and Emma Stone working together for a third time now, and this looks bizarre. It doesn't look like a film that's probably going to get tons of Oscar nods like Poor Things was designed for, but Kinds of Kindness, weird title, but I love the people involved, so therefore it's number 5 on my list, because, coming up all the Oscar buzz of Poor Things, which I still haven't seen yet, but I do love Yorgos Lanthimos, filmmaker. He did The Lobster years and years ago, which I love. He's weird. She's a little weird. And the two of them are weird together, and they won Oscars being weird together, so Kinds of Kindness, I don't know anything about it other than the fact that they're in it, and it's got some weird visuals, so that's why it's number 5 on my list. Have you seen the teaser trailer for Kinds of Kindness yet?
I have not. I have not. I haven't really seen any of his films either. They sort of go to the. I actually have some of his films. I just haven't watched them yet. I'm not really an Emma Stone fan. Can I tell you
The
the truth?
T-shirt again. I have it on Blu-ray.
I'm just not a fan of hers. I think, I don't know what it is. I just don't really find her acting. It doesn't do anything for me. But he's a fine director. He's made some really interesting films. Like you said, he made The Killing of a Sacred Deer, and he made The Lobster. Both came out on A24. And
if you haven't seen The Lobster, watch it. It's great. It is very, very understated. It's very British and it's very understated. And it is hilarious and yet also freaky.
I think that movie snuck in there right before A24 became everybody's critical darling. I think it's one of the more earlier A24 films, which is why we don't really hear about it too much.
Yeah, because that and The Swiss Army Man, which was done by the Daniels, who did Everything Everywhere all at Once. Both kind of early A24, mid-decade, 2015, 16-ish.
Early A24. I'm a big fan of early A24. I have a lot of love for the early A24 films. A lot of love. One of my very favorite movies. We talked about it with Sen from Sen's Corner, and her and I, we both talked about our love for a movie called Remember with Christopher Plummer and Mark Landau. Absolutely love that movie.
Nice. I've not seen that film, so that would be one put on the list.
They come every night. They watch us until the sun rises again.
What is that? What are they doing?
Applause. For you, Mina.
Don't you want to know what they are?
Yeah, you're number 4. Coming down to the top 5 now. You're number 4. This is The Watchers. This is Dakota Fanning, who, I was doing some research. Dakota Fanning is now 30 years old. She just turned 30 a couple months ago. which is weird to think because she's been a movie star for a quarter century now. So this is her in a horror film, and it looks a little weird, and weird in a good way, I think. Tell me about The Watchers.
I love the Fanny Sisters, and I love Abigail Breslin. I'm a huge fan of all three of those. But really, what got me is I want to see how the director goes, Urshana Shyamalan. Is she
Yeah,
going to
M.
be?
Night
Is she gonna,
Shyamalan's 22-year-old daughter, M. Night Shyamalan.
now, will she actually have some skills, or is this just a case of nepotism? And I think that's really the big question for this movie is is she a good director, or is she just getting it because of her name? And I think that's really what people are going to come watch. I think the secondary. I think everything else is secondary, and they want to see if she has a twist at the end of her movie like her dad, which would be a huge mistake. That would be like the biggest mistake that she can make, is to have a twist ending at the end of her movies. I just think that would I would be a destroyer. I think I think whatever your dad does, you do the opposite.
Well,
that's how I look.
The thing about nepotism, and some people may disagree with me here, but the thing about nepotism is that it gets your foot in the door, but you better perform, because Hollywood is not going to pull the director's chair out twice for someone who is getting and everyone knows that you're there because you're your dad's daughter. So the fact that she's 21, 22, and she was, just emotionally mature enough to head a production, even if her dad is there producing and all that kind of stuff, it is kind of impressive to me. So I actually have this on my list. This is also why we're jumping around a little bit. It'll be really interesting to see M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, whether or not she has the directing chops to deliver a good film. And you're right. I wonder if because she is her father's daughter, if she's going to have a twist at the end, or whether she's going to have more of her own thing. Like, does she have her own directing vision?
I mean, sometimes it does work. I mean, we know that it can work. I mean, we look at Jennifer Lynch. You can look at
Sophia
the Cronenberg.
Sophia Coppola,
Sophia Coppola, the Cronenberg kids. They all been taken off.
Jason Reitman, really good director.
Jason Reitman, really good director. I think Ashana, besides her age and her dad's connection, I just think that's what more people are going to be coming for. They're going to be coming to see what she has done. I mean, they're more interested. I think they're going to be more interested in seeing how she does, more necessarily. I mean, we'll see more written about her than maybe necessarily the movie that she's directed.
What about the film itself stands out to you?
It looks
weird.
It looks yeah. And that sort of bothers me a little bit. It's like, does she need to go out there and do a horror right away? I mean, would she been better off doing a more of a drama film right away to separate herself, to give herself some room from her dad? Because her dad always does these weird movies. I don't think he's ever really done a straight drama before. And it's like maybe she should have did that first to get some breathing room between her and her dad. I mean, to come in right and being right in his shadow. I mean, the comparisons are going to be so high. People are going to be looking at her like if it was her dad who had done it.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, like there's a part of me that wishes her first film would have been either a rom-com with Julia Roberts or a gross-out comedy starring Sean William Scott or something like something as far away from M. Night Shyamalan as possible. That's something that I think would have been probably good for her career. But 21, 22 when this film is being shot, the saying is beggars can't be choosers, but I think in this case the 21-year-old rich kid even can't be too picky on the project she has for her first one out there. But the fact that she was able to get a movie that is not only being released, but being released in the summer movie window and not being dumped in August or in springtime, I think says something about the film itself too.
And she attracted one of the stronger leading ladies out there right now too, in one of the Fanny sisters. I mean, that also has to. We also have to acknowledge that too. The rest of the cast looks very localized, very different, and I think that will be. I think that will help too. It's a young cast, probably not a whole lot of experience among all of them. So a little less pressure there too, and then you got a great anchor in Dakota. I think she has a chance as long as she, like I said, as long as she doesn't try to be her dad and do a trick ending at the end of it. I think
Yeah,
she'll be fine.
I,
I think she'll be fine. I hope so.
I hope
I want her to succeed.
I hope so too. It does. It's a really interesting trailer. It's not. I think it's not being too weird for the sake of being weird. And it has. It looks like there's some talent there at the very least.
What the?
Animals don't get too hung up. They just keep killing.
Coming down the home stretch, your number 3 film. We were talking earlier about Jason. This looks like it's inspired by. This is, it's a really cool looking villain. I got still here the villain's face. Tell me about In a Violent Way.
Man, that looks bonkers, doesn't it? They say it's a movie told from Jason Voorhees' perspective, and I'm thinking, that's I'm hooked. I'm hooked right away. And this too also is an
Is it
ISC.
related to the Friday the 13th franchise, or just sort of similar to?
Maybe a homage, maybe. I would have to see the movie to but he looks unstoppable is what he does look like in the trailer. He's just going straight forward, and that's very much Jason. I'm excited to see this one. This will be an ISC midnight release. It's gonna be fierce. ISC has been on a roll. I know we're talking ISC again, but ISC's been on a roll the last year and a half. They have put out some banger movies out, and this looks to be right along with with the release. This looks amazing. It looks strong. It looks very creepy. I never even thought about that, because we were talking about this. I think we were talking about this yesterday about how Jason, the first 4 of the Friday the 13th movies, they're the best ones because they show Jason as a human. The first 4 are the best, but then he dies, right? But before that, we always talked about, like, we always, rewatching the Friday the 13th movies, and the one thing that came out afterwards was that Jason was very intelligent. He was very smart. He was not just a disfigured, a hockey wearing, mass murderer. He was very smart. And if you go back and really watch the movies and think about it, where he was when he supposedly drowned to where he is now when he starts killing, all that time he had to survive. It's fascinating to think about the character that way. Like, he's smart, he's intelligent. He figured out where Alice lived in the second movie. How did he do that? Did he know how to read? Could he read a map? I mean, how did he know this? He couldn't drive. And we're talking about all these things that a potential mass murder. Like, how did he do all that stuff? And so when I saw the trailer for In a Violent Nature, and it seems like that's what he's doing, like the character's just going straight forward, I'm hooked. I want to see it. And if it is from Jason's perspective, if their killer is like Jason and he is killing, and we do see it from his point of view, that'll be interesting.
The trailer looks really really well put together, and it definitely has. I've never even seen the Friday the 13th films, and the fact that it's giving me the Friday the 13th vibes, I've never seen them, just goes to how well they've captured that kind of iconography and that style. And you're right, he does seem equal parts force of nature and man, which is kind of, I think when you start getting into the 80s horror films, and it's Freddy Krueger and these very heightened, superlative, supernatural kind of horror ones versus the more grounded, down-to-earth 70s horror film kind of villains.
I got the impression too when I was watching this, Brian, is the fact that now that because Shudder also is also owned by AMC, who owns ISC, and I did notice that some of these movies that they've came out with, a couple of the movies, they do tend to run a little bit more, because I don't want to say art house horror, because that's not necessarily true, but I do see some of these movies that ISC and Shudder have been releasing. It does seem to be rounding back into the more 80s type of feel, as far as horror goes.
Like
and that's
80s
not
in terms of elevated, or like 70s in terms of.
I think definitely elevated. I think definitely elevated, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think I can't wait to see it. I just hope that we get it played around us. I don't want it to be just playing. I don't want it to be playing in New York City for a week and then go straight to stream. It's like, don't do that.
Do you have
You
any
know,
indie movie theaters near you?
no, our Image Theater will once in a while play an indie movie once in a while, but no, we don't have. We had one art house theater. It went over to Bollywood Theater, and then I think it got closed. So we don't have any art house. No.
Yeah, we have. I'm in Las Vegas, and we only really had 2 or 3, and one of them shut down during the pandemic. So we don't even have a ton here in Vegas. So always good to see horror films in theaters too. That's in a big crowd when it's really dark with people screaming around you. I think probably the best way to have a horror film.
44th between 9th and 10th.
Want some radio?
Not really.
Who else you gonna talk to about this? Not like you're ever gonna see me again.
How'd you meet your wife?
She threw up in my cab.
My number 4 film, we're kind of poking fun at Madam Web a little bit, and for good reason. And I think, Dakota Johnson is an actress who, let's be honest, Dakota Johnson's acting chops have never really been known as Meryl Streep-like. She was in the 50 Shades of Grey series. She then came up in one of the worst superhero films of recent memory in Madam Web, but Daddio, I think will get people looking at Dakota Johnson as an actual actress, as opposed to just someone who's there to get a paycheck and a legacy. And speaking of nepotism, Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith's daughter. But she is in this trailer. She looks like a very talented young actress. As a two-hander, it looks like a pretty simple premise. It is Dakota Johnson getting a cab ride. It's her and Sean Penn. And I'm saying this as I drove Uber for 2 years, so the whole thing of people getting in my car, and then you have a 5 or 10 minute conversation as you drive them somewhere, and then you never see them again. And sometimes they're bad. Most of the time they're average. Sometimes they're really, you click with people. And the fact that we're getting a film based off of a premise similar to that, where Dakota Johnson comes back from an airport, she gets in Sean Penn's cab, and, a film takes place where it's a two-hander, they get to know each other. I love the premise of this, and as Sean Penn, Academy Award-winning actor, Dakota Johnson looks like she's holding her own, sitting in his back seat. So I think that this is the kind of film that really excites me, because we haven't really seen what Dakota Johnson can do as an actor, as an actress, and the fact that Sean Penn was willing to be in a two-hander, a small film, with a really weird title, Daddio. I think it's not a good title, but if you watch the trailer for Daddio, it's not a comedy, it's a drama, and it looks like there's some good acting going on from Dakota Johnson, which is enough to make me say that this is my number 4 film for summertime. It's a weird thing to say, but Daddio, it actually looks good. Have you seen the trailer for Daddio yet?
No, I was gonna say, I wonder how long the taxi ride is. It's like it's
in New York, so it could probably be for a couple hours. But it goes from daytime to nighttime in the trailer. So.
Well, I just finished watching and reviewing a film called Take Me Home, and it had that same premise. It had a woman get inside a cab and telling the cab driver to drive, and then next thing you know, they're driving across the country because their dad had a heart attack.
Oh.
And so I just watched one of those movies, and it was good. I enjoyed it. And two, it wasn't a comedy either. It was a character drama, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I was gonna say, if this is a drama, so that'll be very interesting, because Sean Penn may not be the nicest guy off the screen, but when he's doing drama, who would ever thought that when we first saw him in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, who would ever thought that we would have got a dramatic actor? I didn't.
And to have the kind of staying power that he's had.
My favorite Sean Penn movie that I've ever seen him in was Dead Man Walking. Oh my
Oh
god,
yeah,
that
Milk
was
was
such a
really good too.
man. That was so good. Oh, I couldn't. I was blown away by it. I was
Dead Man
blown away.
Walking.
Dead Man Walking. Yeah,
Yeah.
this could be cool. I mean, it is a what they call what a bottle room take if they're just going to stay in the cab. That would be very interesting to see how it all depends how far that they have to drive. They have to drive to New York, and if they do it in real time, that would be very interesting to me. I would definitely would be interested in watching this.
And it's it's not a scenario where it's like her dad's having a heart attack like in the film you watched. This looks like it's her dealing with a cheating boyfriend or something along those lines. So definitely more melodrama than hardcore drama, but it looks like she's showing some good acting range. So that's why it's number 4 of my list. Your number 2 is Longlegs. I love him. Nicolas Cage, he's a weird actor, and most of his films are kind of weird now. He's gone away from the Academy Award-winning actor, kind of trying to win Oscars, but Longlegs is, it looks like a Nicolas Cage film. Tell me about Longlegs.
Well, again, Nicolas Cage is another actor was very similar to like Vince Vaughn and also Ryan Reynolds. If you have a strong director, do what I want you to do. As long as you get a strong director on there, you can get really great performances from Nicolas Cage. He's done some really fine films recently, Color Out of Space, Mandy being a couple of them. He did Willy's Wonderland. I mean, he didn't have any dialogue in that movie, so he did all his acting with just the space. That's a lot harder than you think. It's not. It's not as easy as Just, well, I could have did that. No, maybe not. It's not necessarily. It's not really easy. I like the idea of someone who's discovering that they have to work with a serial killer to catch a killer. Because that's what I say. In order to catch one, you gotta know one or be one. You gotta think in their mind. That's what made Manhunter so awesome. Was the character of Will was he was able to think like a killer. That's why I was able to catch him. And I like that idea that this FBI agent has to find this killer to help her. I think it's her to help her find one. Now the evidence of the occult thing, so that has a supernatural element to it. That intrigues me as well. I think Oz Perkins will do fine as he wrote it, he directed it. I think he'll get a great performance from his cast. He's got a strong cast. He's got Alicia Witt, Micah Monroe, Blair Underwood. I mean that, and besides Nicolas Cage, that's a strong cast right there. And I think it's going to be a sleeper hit. I think it's going to be a big sleeper hit, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, July 12th coming out. Horror films. Horror films I think generally come out more in the spring and in the fall. They don't get a ton of them out in the summertime. So the fact that we have a horror film that's coming out peak summer, I think says that they have a lot of confidence in this film. So the trailer looks Nicolas Cage weird, but not too weird. And that's a fine line. That's a fine road to hoe sometimes. That's a fine line to walk. But
what's really exciting too is we see the return of Micah Monroe. Now this will be when I see this movie here. This will be the first time I've seen her since she came out in one of my very favorite horror movies ever. And It Follows. Oh, It Follows is so good.
Nice.
So
yeah,
good.
I was gonna say I know I've seen her and stuff, but nothing's coming to the top of my head off the top of my head. But good actors though, very talented actors. Also good to see Blair Underwood again. Haven't seen him in a long time. It's been a while since.
It's been a while since that. And Alicia Witt too. I think the last time I saw Alicia Witt was in the Friday the 13th remake. Yeah, I think she played the sister. But the rest of the cast it looks to be young and up and comers, and it's going to be interesting. I think Nicolas Cage will be restrained. We have not heard. We have not heard of him doing crazy Nick Cage for quite a while now. I mean, even when he did Freddy's Wonderland, he was he wasn't. Everybody who wrote about the movie, they didn't say that he was crazy and manic or anything else. I have not read a review of any of his movies within the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, I would disagree a little bit because he was in he played himself last spring in what was it?
Massive Talent.
The Massive Talent one.
Yeah, but that was written that way.
Yeah,
that was written.
He also had done some. He did the other one where he was playing Dracula or something. There's
Renfield. Yeah, he got a lot of praise for that.
So and he was good, but he was definitely Crazy Cage in Renfield as Dracula.
But people were commenting in the positive, whereas a lot of his movies where he acted stupid like that, he was getting roasted. And the last, like I said, the last 3-4 years, the movies that he's been coming out with, people have actually been praising him. I think the last Cage movie, Crazy Cage, I saw him was a medieval movie, but the last few movies I've seen him in have been really strong. Have been really good. In the little areas where his character did slightly go off the ranch a little bit, worked because that's who his character was. It wasn't because he was just being Nicolas Cage. It was because that's how his character was. He played a CIA officer trying to catch a killer, and he has Alzheimer's. So he's having bouts of Alzheimer's while he's trying to catch this one rogue villain that got away. And so when he goes a little crazy, it fits. It's not just Nicolas Cage going crazy. It fits the character. I'm still a fan of Nicolas Cage. Still a fan.
I like seeing what he chooses to do too. He still has those choices as to what he can actually do with a film. So it's always fun to see what he. You know what too? I would love to see what the scripts that he rejects, because as interesting as they are, I would love to see the ones that don't quite make it.
Autistic kids don't give a. He's not dangerous. He's a challenge. Nobody wants to do the work. Shut up!
That kid is the one thing that I can't get wrong.
My number 3 film is, it looks like a quiet film. It's called Ezra, and it has Bobby Cannavale, young actor playing the title role of Ezra by the name of William A. Fitzgerald. He's playing Ezra. He's playing an autistic kid going on a cross-country trip with his dad, Bobby Cannavale, who is a stand-up comedian trying to earn money so that his son can get a good education. Tons of actors in this film, including Robert De Niro. Whoopi Goldberg is also in this. She plays his agent. And it just looks like a great two-hander. It looks like a great father-son type film. And in the same way that Janet Planet looked like a great mother-daughter film, this looks like a great father-son dynamic as Bobby Cannavale, a stand-up comedian, is trying to figure out the best way to raise an autistic kid who is having a lot of problems with life, a lot of problems trying to get along, a lot of problems trying to understand people. So Rose Byrne is the mom, Rainn Wilson as the uncle. Anytime you can be a small little independent film that attracts this much talent, where they're not all just kind of related to each other, I love the vibe being given off in the trailer for Ezra. So Ezra, of all things, small little film is number 3 on my summer movie list. So
now, is that going to get a theatrical release, or is that going to be just strictly a streaming?
I believe so. I didn't. My notes didn't show anything for streaming, so I believe it's going to get a theatrical release. It looks like it. It looks like it had the budget for a theatrical release, so that would be my guess. I don't know that for a fact, but the fact that it's coming out May 31st, it's Memorial Day weekend or thereabouts.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's tough.
Yeah, it's a lot of competition.
It's gonna have a hard time finding its audience until I get in theater. I think it'll find its audience when it goes to streaming.
I agree, but the fact that they have the balls to come out Memorial Day-ish as counter programming for all of the other big budget releases coming out that weekend says to me that the studio has confidence in it. So yeah, Bobby Cannavale, Robert De Niro, and Fitzgerald here, the kid. He looks, and child actors try and treat with kid gloves, literally and metaphorically, but I don't know whether he actually is autistic or not, but he does a good job in the trailer of being very convincing in terms of trying to struggle. And you can see, if acting is reacting, you can tell that the adult cast members aren't having to envision green tennis balls for CGI. They're actually responding to his performance. So it is a very moving performance, at least the trailer. So I'm hoping that translates into being a good film as well. So yeah, Ezra is my number 3. Have you seen the trailers yet for this?
I have not, but again, I'm going to mark it down. No, I actually heard. I've heard. I think I saw somebody had commented about. I'm talking about Ezra, but I hadn't watched the video. But they were talking about it, and someone in the community. So I did. I was aware of it, but I didn't know any of the details. It sounds like it sounds very much. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if I can find an audience.
Absolutely.
Much like Janet Planet. But I like the choices. I like to, but I like the choices. I mean, I think I would be more about seeing those type of movies than the big blockbusters. The new Transformer movie. I'd rather go see something small than something like that.
Put the window up.
I don't want to.
It's Pete. How did I get the name?
It's in my mouth.
Your number 1 film, Borderlands.
Borderlands. Okay. So one obviously got to go and tell this a little bit. I'm looking at Eli Roth as director. He bounced back after a long time. He bounced back last November with Thanksgiving. Had a major hit. They're actually making the sequel to it smartly, so it'll probably be out next year. So I'm looking forward to that. I was very glad to see him come back. He had the kill of the year, according to the Oscars. He had the kill of the year, which was amazing, considering that the actress who played that role in the kill of the year was a friend of mine. So I was very tickled about that. Not only excited for Eli Roth for Borderlands, but of course I also got to sit there and tell you my main reason I'll be excited to see this movie is because it has my favorite actress of the moment working in it. And it was funny because I'm talking to an actress named Gabrielle Archambault this past week, and she says, and my favorite actress is Haley Bennett, and anybody who knows me knows that Haley Bennett is mine as well. I do love me some Haley Bennett.
Yeah, she was really good in
Swallow.
The one with Tyrion Lannister last year.
Cyrano.
Cyrano, yeah, that was it.
Yep, and she was great in Christie. She was great in The Honey of Mine. She's just a really fine actress, and so I was very excited to see that she's going to be in this movie. It's because she makes some interesting choices too, Brian. She definitely could be in all these big budget movies if she wanted to, but her choices are so interesting. They really are. Cyrano. Swallow. Swallow was an amazing freaking movie. That movie had me on the edge of my seat. It made me
the poster is very distinct. I did not see the film.
It made me feel so. It will make you feel so uncomfortable. I mean, you're sitting, you are squirming in your seat. I'm going to be 60 years old. Nothing makes me squirm in my seat. But I watching that movie had me squirming. I was like, I just was like heebie-jeebies, and she pulled it off so well, and I felt like she deserved an Oscar for that. I thought she deserved an Oscar for her role in that movie, and she didn't get nominated. But this movie here is a big budget movie, big summer screens, big summer. It's based off a video game, has a massive all-star cast: Jack Black, Kate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Hart, Gina Gershon, Bobby Lee. I mean, Cheyenne Jackson. I mean, there's just a ton of stars in this movie. Now everybody saw what Eli Roth did with a sleeper hit in Thanksgiving. Now the pressure will be on to see what he does with a big budget movie. If he pops this movie out, it makes a lot of money. That will probably push him to much bigger projects moving forward. because his directing career has been really been like stop and go. It really hasn't been consistent, you know. Sometimes he does acting, like it's almost like he's not really sure what he wants to do. Do you want to
Inglourious
act full
Bastards.
time? Yeah, he was great in that. As an actor, he was great. But we don't really see Eli Roth as an actor. We see him as a director. And it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to do one? I don't think you can do both. I just don't. It's just like do one or the other. And I really hope that he sticks with directing. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of Hostel,
I
but
liked
I
Hostel
do
1.
that's the one I didn't like. I
Oh.
like 2. I like 2 better than 1, but the one I really liked a lot was because again he had that sort of like that it had a good creep factor in it. Was he did Cabin Fever, and
Oh,
and
with
that was
Dave Bautista last spring.
that was really really good. And I don't know why they remade it though. They didn't need to remake it. That was that was so stupid. And that was that was an ISC release, and I remember going like, nobody asked for this at all. I got a copy of that movie because I'm a completist, but I'll probably never watch it. I'll probably just stay on my shelf. I have no desire to watch it. It's a shot for shot a remake of the first one without the good cast.
It wasn't awful. I saw it last spring and it was fine. Yeah, it was fine. It wasn't memorable, but it was all right. You know.
It broke Serena Vincent out. Because at that time, up to that point, she had been known as a Power Ranger, and then she shaved her legs, and that changed that narrative really quick. But that will be my number one movie. That's the one movie I want to see more this summer is definitely Borderland for Eli Roth and Haley Bennett.
Not so coincidentally, and I produced my list independently of yours, even though I had your list, but I didn't look at it. My number one is also Borderlands. I think this is, and it's really fascinating. If you look at the 4 or 5 biggest cast members in this film, if you say Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Hart, and every other main actor in this film, the very last thing that I would picture them being in together is a summer blockbuster action film. Very talented cast, great cast, and I realize
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett was the villain in Thor Ragnarok. But if you're really going to say Kate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jamie Lee Curtis, are you really picturing a summer action film along the lines of Guardians of the Galaxy? So the fact that they're taking against type to a certain extent in terms of action hero stars and giving us the MCU movie that we didn't get this summer is reason number one why I love this. Why I love the idea of this film. The visuals look amazing. I've never played the video game. Yes, video game adaptions make me a little bit nervous, especially when it's a big summer blockbuster. I honestly don't care whether or not it's close or not to the video game storyline, but this looks like the Marvel film that we've all been waiting for the last couple of years. Since Endgame, the MCU really hasn't been great. I've been defending the MCU left and right very hard, kind of an uphill battle, to be honest. But this looks like the MCU movie that I was hoping for that we didn't get. But yet it's not an MCU film. So that's those two or three reasons are kind of the main reason why it's number one on my list. And also, too, the fact that it's an August action film release, and yet it's number one on my list. Yeah, I guess this kind of goes to the actor and the writer strikes that happened last summer. Normally we have a lot more big budget blockbusters to choose from for summer movie releases, so we're not getting as many of them this summer. I get that, but Borderlands looks freaking amazing.
I mean, I'm looking at the cast. And I'm thinking there's Jack Black and Kevin Hart. They did the 2 Jumanji films together. Kate Blanchett has done a lot of action films. She not only did she play Hela in the Thor movie, but she also played the villainess in Indiana Jones. And yeah, so
I
Kate
tried
Blanchett,
very hard to forget about that one.
She also played the villainess in Hannah. She played the villainess in Hannah. She was really good in that. And Haley has done her fair share of action too. She was in the Magnificent Seven, and she also was in The Equalizer. So she herself has been action films. Definitely some decent, some really good pedigree here. You're right. I mean, I'm just thinking right now. I'm thinking like there's another Planet of the Apes movie that's supposed to be coming out this summer. I have zero desire to see that. If I had to do a honorable mention, I definitely would have put Kevin Costner's movies on there. I am hoping against hope that they do well.
And, there's a couple in there that were honorable mentions that were big blockbusters that came close for me, like Twisters. I watched every summer blockbuster or every summer trailer that's available to be out right now. I watched in the last 48 hours, and Twisters looked decent, but it didn't quite make the list. It just looked like a slightly better rendered version of the original.
It really did, and yeah, I was gonna say I that movie looked stupid. It looked absolutely. It looked stupid. And the first one, I had a hard time with the first one too because of that, because it's so they're playing them as rock and roll stars, chasers, I was talking to somebody about that and going like, what really frustrates me is you see these people out here that post videos about them chasing storms, and they're driving and they're seeing the tornado off to the right, and they're driving, they're going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and they're following the tornado. And every time I sit there and I watch that, I'm going like, why aren't you slowing down? Let the tornado get down the road a little bit. Then why don't you go back over to those houses that you watch get blown up? That you're sitting there going like, I hope nobody was in there, and keep driving. They drive me freaking nuts. Storm chasers drive me nuts. It's just it's cool chasing a tornado one time. You done it once, you done it all, right? But it just frustrates me to see that. It's like you're driving a tornado, you hit a house, and you're like, "Oh, I hope everything. Hope they're okay."
The funny thing is, I liked the first one when it came out back in '96, and it's Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. You can't really go wrong there. But the thing that really got me with the trailer for Twisters was that they're recycling the whole Dorothy thing, the machine thing, and sending the thing. Like, that was something that was very specific to 30 years ago, to the mid-90s. So, I got nothing against it, but the fact that was a major part of the plot line of the trailer, I thought was sort of funny, and honestly, that was the reason why I didn't make it onto my list. That's our list, though, so, reflecting a little bit on your list, are you happy with what's being served up this summer, or is this kind of more one of like, savoring the wine, but like it's not a normal summer where you can just like, it's Taco Bell movies and superheroes and dinosaurs?
I think there's I don't know. I think it's I think people are optimistic that there will be a big hit. So far, a couple of movies have come out and done really well, and I think they're slightly ahead of what they were last year. And there are some decent movies coming up. I mean, all the movies we talked about. I mean, some are going to do big money, like Borderlands. It's going to do major. It's going to be a big hit. And then some of the smaller dramas that we talked about. Yeah, they're not going to go out there and make $300 million, but they're still going to be very entertaining. They're still going to be really well acted, well directed. A lot of attention is going to be placed on the directors. Everybody's going to be looking at Shyamalan's daughter. They're going to be looking at Oz Perkins. They're going to be looking at they're going to be looking at Rennie Harlan. I mean, these directors here are, they're trying to come back. They're trying to come back to become, next summer's directors. Not just small movies coming out and hope. They want a $200 million movie next year. They're doing a $40 million this summer, but they want that big money for next year. And so, they're much as in the spotlight as the movies and the actors are.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that there's a single $1 billion film this entire summer. Just in my opinion. I mean, I think the closest one will probably be Deadpool, but I don't think that's going to have the legs. It's as a rated R film, it probably won't have the legs to make $1 billion.
I'm not even sure how it's going to get received. That's the thing. I mean, are the hardcore fans? I mean, I think there's two different fans. There's the hardcore MCU fans, and then there's the Deadpool fans. And which ones are going to show up? because believe me, they're going to be battling on boards and forums all summer long. They're going to be talking trash to each other. You know, they're going to be, and the thing is though, they're going to be talking trash on, you know, on their social media, and you know,
and on your and my YouTube channels. Ding.
Yeah, on YouTube channel, Instagram. It's gonna be that movie is probably gonna be the most polarizing movie of the summer, for sure. That one's gonna be the most polarizing. There's not gonna be any middle ground for Deadpool and Wolverine. You either love it or you hate it. There's not gonna be any like, yeah, it was cool, it was all right. You know, wasn't the best thing I saw, but I liked it a lot. You know, it's not gonna be that. It's gonna be it sucked or it rocked.
Yeah, like, and honestly, if Deadpool 3 ends up being, it was all right, then that in and of itself is a major failure of the film, because I think, and honestly, that too, I think if Ryan Reynolds hears, it was okay about Deadpool 3, he then will know that he messed up and didn't do a good film.
I just, he's gonna have to. I just don't know how he's gonna do it. It's like, you know, can you make Deadpool? And look, it's all right to have humor. Every hero has humor. I mean, go back to every single comic book, and every superhero has humor and you know, one-liners and shit. That's not the problem. The problem was that everything he said was knocking down what was already established. He made fun of the X-Men. He made fun of Disney's. He made fun of, you know, he just ripped it all. And
See,
it's like,
I actually loved all of that. I loved when he was doing all that.
But how do you go from breaking the fourth wall to fixing it? I don't know if he can. I don't think he can fix the fourth wall. I think he broke it. And
well, he's not a fixer. He's a maker funner. He's a maker funner of. That's even grammatically correct.
Well, I'm just in the comic book, and for one thing too, this is Marvel's problem too. Marvel really they've done this ever since the first X-Men or first Spider-Man movie, is that they tend to overexpose every character to death. Like, you know, Wolverine came out and he was in every single fucking superhero book, and you have a team. Let's get a super team together. Okay, we got to put Wolverine in there. Okay, Hulk is going to come, and Hulk is on the rampage. Get Wolverine in there. You know, let's do a sponsorship with McDonald's. Get Wolverine. You know, and the same thing they did with Deadpool. And it's just like it's too much exposure for me. It's just like Borderland, though, I think you're right. You and I picked that one as our number one. We had no idea about that's amazing.
Well, and it's just kind of funny because, you know, we only have 3 films overlapping on our lists, and yet we both chose a film coming out in August as a video game adaptation. Getting an August release is our number one film. So I think if that says anything right there, that's a good sign for the film, but I think it's probably a bad sign for the summer movie releases as a whole, that there isn't, 2 or 3 films that are, you know, Jurassic Park level, MCU level quality that are expected. So
it's going to be an interesting summer.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a lot of good films. By the way, how many of your top 11, how many are you planning to watch in theaters?
I right now, if I could get to see, if I had them here, if they were playing here, I definitely would go see the 2 ISC films. Otherwise, for sure, I want to go see Borderlands in the theater. I definitely want to see them. I know Haley didn't have a super big role in it, but I still want to go see her on the big screen.
Yes, great actors. I would say probably 5 or 6 films of mine I'm gonna see on the big screen. That's kind of still a work in progress. I'm, like I was saying, I was gone for 6 months away from YouTube for a reason, and it's, you know, I don't want to get into that in this video, but trying to get to the point where I'm back watching more movies in theaters. So
I'm just glad you're back. You know, that was like I was like when I saw you started popping up and posting, I'm going like, hell yeah. And I'm glad you're back. You know, and you got to take care of some business, but this was fun. I really enjoyed coming down here and talking with you about the summer preview. This is this was an honor. Thank you so much for thinking about it.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for kind of breaking my cherry on the way back, and thank you for your patience dealing with my technical difficulties starting our show a little late. So thank you for coming on, and Thank you, Patrick, from Have Cheetah Will View. I still love the title. I love your channel name. And everyone check out his channel. And anyone who would like to leave comments, please leave comments. Let us know what you thought. What movies are you looking forward to watching in the summer of 2024? Let us know in the comments section below this video. I'm back. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we will see you next time.